Hello and welcome to yet another exciting episode of Enterprise Morning on Enterprise TV. I am Henry Igwe. Right about now, we'll be moving to our newspaper headlines to see what they have for us, and right after that will be our main conversation for today, where we get all of this produced for you and just for you. Please do well to visit our website at www.enterprisetvnews.com and also follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV 7. With me in the studios to make sense of our newspaper headlines today is Mr. Cyril Abaku. He is a public affairs analyst and also a communicator. Mr. Cyril, you're welcome.
Thank you, Henry.
To Enterprise Morning. Good morning to you today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Welcome. So we'll be moving to our newspaper headlines, and first on the list is the Punch newspaper, and the big story there says CBN orders banks to sell excess dollars in 24 hours, and the writer there says banks may sell over $5 billion worth, says official. Cardoso face Senate Tuesday over Naira free fall. And on the top strip of the same newspaper, we have Tinubu directs AGF and to end the 1.3 billion naira oil block dispute. And we have shareholders excited as Otedola becomes First Bank of Nigeria holding chairman, and abductors flogged Ekiti school children, and that's coming from the proprietor. Mr. Cyril, I would love you to talk about this issue of abduction.
Sorry, did you say they flogged the Ekiti school?
Exactly. That's what made the headline today, and I think it's very important for us to discuss that, because these young future leaders are innocent of this crime. They don't have any reason whatsoever being part of this whole issue. And I love to ask, how does it really feel? How does it, as a parent, how do you feel about this issue? Very disturbing issue.
Sometimes, first of all, I'm wishing it wasn't true.
But it is, unfortunately.
Yes, it is true. And no reasonable person should bear to stand this. It is unfortunate, but you can't bear to stand this. These are little children. These are kids. They are children. They are infants. Why would anybody in the world think of meting out such dehumanizing treatment to fellow human beings?
Not even fellow human beings, but to children.
And and not least children. I mean, school children.
Yeah.
I don't think that those are even teenagers. They are these are children.
Yeah, children.
So why would anybody in his right mind do this? But the sadder side to this story is that, like we saw in Abuja, where another family of people have been kidnapped, I think yesterday or 2 days ago, and like we're seeing in Ekiti, to think that these kidnappers are even mere instruments in the hands of sponsors and people who send them to undertake this very heinous mission for money just goes to show how low the Nigerian mind has sunk, and how, there's nothing redeeming about this whole saga. In all states, Ekiti, they took these school children and now they are flogging them, believing that by doing so, it will quicken and hasten the collection of the ransom from parents and from government. I don't think that I like the way Governor Oyebanji gave assurance that they're going to rescue them. Please, that ransom should be paid quickly. There is no rescue mission. They should not do it.
But remember, the federal government shouldn't do anything like crowdfunding for ransom.
No.
So don't you think that on its part,
that's for the headlines. That's for the headlines. That's for newspaper and the television people to go and write. In reality, they should pay the money quickly.
And what do you think that will do? If you are insinuating that they should pay the money for the ransom, which means it's telling them to do more, so they would go.
I'm not insinuating. He's going to be complicit in the creation of this industry that has become the kidnapping and bandit and terrorist industry? Can governments in some open news books and tell us that that their hands are clean? Have you come to Equity with clean hands? You were in this country when the DSS released 44 intelligence reports about a prison break, a pending prison break, and nothing was done until that prison was broken into. Who is fooling who? These people, they said they've done NIM, they've done NIMC, they've done all kinds of things. The governor came out and said they're listening on their conversations, they know where they are, they know that they are going in and they are going in and they're coming out, they're not looking about them, and yet they've not been able to order one single strike against them. We are witnesses to this. There was a time a national newspaper, and online newspaper, carried the story. This about 5 or 6 years ago, I had a story about how a drone and a military grade drone had been intercepted at Mulitano International Airport coming into Nigeria, and it was not imported by any of the Nigerian military apparatus. What was done about it? Who investigated that? And today, where is that drone? So when we discuss these things, we are not just talking because we enjoy the fun of talking.
But the truth of the matter,
these school children that have been kidnapped in Ekiti, the governor made the state broadcast. It is good. That's good for the public relations, but that's not enough to get the children free. Pay the ransom. Please stop negotiating. Because I know that the reason why they flog the children is because they're either delaying the negotiation, begging them, or not even willing to, so they flog them to hasten it's common psychology. So that when the parents cry to the governor will now be in that same state that what's it called? Two monarchs were killed and one fled. You saw I think it was the governor that went to the village to go visit. You saw how the woman came out and was singing a dive.
Yeah, one of the wives to the monarch.
So in Nigeria of 2024, suspects can just be at large. Police don't know where they are. Or have they arrested them now? Is the case that big? Or have they suddenly killed them and suddenly now they fly to Congo or Cameroon? They can't trace them to know where they are. But you see, to tell you how bad things, this is the reason why we've always called for deliberate strategic leadership. Johnson Suleiman, the apostle, after there was an assassination attempt on his life, he had to cough out 50 million naira for the police to be able to investigate and catch those who went after his life. The police, for all you care, either was still trying to investigate, or was planning to investigate, or was trying to begin to investigate, but nothing was going. In fact, he said he hired the first police team. He said he was driving a fit. He had to get another team from Abuja also, who now undertook the investigation. How many common people, like the king whose people were killed, that king who has died, even if it was the whole village came together, can they raise that amount of money? If Suleiman used 50 million in maybe 2 years ago, how much is that today? Can the entire village bring money out and say that they want to give to the police to find out who killed? So these are the issues, brother. Like I told you, hastening the payment of this ransom. It has happened in the past. What is new about this one now?
But Nabia
has paid ransom.
Yes. Yes.
They have to go. Now, after they paid the ransom, all right. This whole thing is looking like, but and again, is there anything new about what's going on? Because ideally, when you pay ransom, you are supposed to be able to track. You're supposed to be able to know where that money is going. All right, who took it? Right, you should be able to know that you don't is a problem. It is not possible that these kidnappers, because you see, like in Abuja too, the kidnappers look very haggard, very unkempt, maybe the money better in days, looking tattered and everything. And we often say that these monies they money because they are gas. Who are these on gas? We've been told that prominent politicians are behind kidnapping in Nigeria. What for? And who are they nameless and faceless? So let me tell you this: if I was president of Nigeria, I will use force that is the brutest force against these people.
That is, if you were an independent president who had no backings of the same people who are trying to go against.
If I became president, who would be my godfather?
But is it ever possible to become a president without the backings of these people? Well, that's a very big.
Well, you know what to have to visit and remember.
All right, well, so let's go to the story of the CBN ordering banks to sell excess dollars in 24 hours. So it still boils down to just what you talked about, the deliberate leadership. So would we say that all the while Nigerian banks had surplus of dollars but have refused to sell them? But because of the issue we have now, the humiliation we have in our economy today, it's now abrupt for the CBN to just wake up and say, hey, everyone should sell off their excess dollars.
The governor of the CBN, okay, yesterday received the summons from the Senate to appear, I think, next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Now, this morning, what have you had? They should come and explain why the dollar is appreciating so rapidly against the naira. Why the naira is crashing, not just to the ocean, but to the ocean bed, to the seabed, and is looking for where, as if the naira is drilling for oil. It's going down and down and down. As soon as they told him to come and appear and give explanation, what did you hear today? That the CBN has ordered banks to quickly offload dollars, right? So that once there's enough dollar supply, it will appreciate against the naira. The naira will appreciate against the dollar. Now, it is not just about the CBN saying that banks should release dollars in their hands. There must be checks to either prove or rule out criminal negligence.
On whose part?
On the part of the CBN.
On the part of Yemi Kadoso?
The CBN.
Okay.
The CBN. Let's be sure that the CBN knew what to do and all along refused to do it.
Okay.
Criminal negligence as a regulator. One. Number two, we need to also go to the banks to check if there was complicity and collusion, that they were working in cahoot with the black market operators to hoard the dollars that were in their possession, if only to make the price go so that they could make gain. You get what I mean? But when this matter to, we told them, then it's not administrative, it is criminal. You cannot, CBN can't give an order to the banks and 2 weeks later they've not done anything, and it says that it's not administrative. It's not only the naira falling against them, it's about the naira being scarce in Nigeria.
Is it the question of naira being scarce? No. Some analysts have come out to say that the reason why, the main remote reason why we have scarcity of the dollar in Nigerian economy is because of the excess liquidity in the system. There's so much naira in the system. So politicians are invariably converting this excess naira to the dollar, and at whatever rate they want to do it. And that is the reason why there is excess of the dollar as against the naira, not because importers are yearning so much for the dollar. Do you agree to that?
I don't. Even if that argument was plausible, perhaps it was for a wave of time. But rather, that's a substantive structure on which to place the issue. Do you get what I'm saying? Okay. It's possible that at the moment this happened, but not that is the substantive issue at play here. Let me give an example. Moses, Henry, the naira itself is scarce. The naira itself. In Lagos today, people that do this POS business, if you want to withdraw 5,000, even before the 5,000 naira was 100 naira, today you're not sure how much it will be, except until you approach.
But how does that affect the scarcity of the dollar?
No. Now this is the point. When, let me begin with the naira, right? The naira, they were imposing an artificial scarcity on the naira. That's how I've come to look at it. The CBN.
Okay.
All right. Because the fear is that when the naira, because of course in Nigeria you largely spend the naira, right? So the naira being, like you said, excess liquidity, whatever that, the CBN was not even sure actually. They were just using that thing to test and to bait, so to see whether they could get, they could mop in more naira. Yeah. But so what they did was, people, they know that once they are not able to, once the naira is fairly scarce, more people will be forced to do transactions electronically, and then those that have the dollar will now be looking for more naira.
Okay.
Meanwhile, the question is the dollar that they're holding, where did it come from? The dollar does not come from common Nigerians. The dollar comes from back-end sources. When the CBN told the banks to go to airports and go to other places and open bureau and open place for it, why didn't the bank do that? Because the banks are, as people say, channeling those dollars through the back door to the black market and politicians.
Okay.
Now, in all of this, why is the common man they want to bear the brunt? That's my argument. Why is the common man the person to bear? Why didn't the CBN wield the big stick early in the day? You see, instead of using punitive measures, you can incentivize it. You can incentivize electronic transfers, not necessarily. I mean by saying if you transfer some amount of money to whatever, you have this
persuasion. Basically.
Instead of doing that, you now just come punitively. After announcing that the naira, the old windows are usable indefinitely, then the next thing the naira is scarce. You see that you are forcing people to bring in their dollar. I mean, this what the civil government questions was. But for me, it shouldn't just be an intervention. It should be that if there is probable cause for prosecution or for grounds to consider or even to suspect the least evidence of criminal negligence, somebody should appear in court to give explanations.
Exactly. So let's move on to the Vanguard newspaper for today, and the big story is still on the CBN. CBN clamps down on banks, pegs trade asset in forex, and down. After that big story, we have EFCC battles a religious sects over 13 billion naira money laundering for terrorists. On the top strip of the same newspaper, we have Ekiti kidnap, deploys 100 personnel, parades start one suspect. Bandits kidnap 2 sisters in Abuja, demand 30 million naira ransom. EFCC investigating ex-minister Sirika over Nigeria air deal, and that's coming from Keyamu. Right on the very top strip of the same newspaper, we have a story. Otedola takes over First Bank as a chairman. So let's talk a bit about this issue, because we are coming from what happens in the financial system, and I think it augurs well if we maybe just take a little bit of a bite on this issue. Otedola taking over First Bank as a chairman. Is this particularly the new trend amongst billionaires? Tony Elumelu is the chairman of the UBA. Otedola is taking over the chairmanship of First Bank of Nigeria. How is this trickling down to economy of skill for the common in Nigeria?
So right now it's not necessarily a common for the common man thing. You have a business; it's your business. You are an investor, so it depends on what your philosophy for that investment is. All right. But I know that in business, a lot of times when people put money, when people invest, they would have looked at the books and seen where that money is going and what it will come back in terms of returns. The most easy way we call it ROI, return on investment, right? Okay, so I think what Otedola would have done is due diligence to see that First Bank was a viable boss or vehicle to to throw his money into. I commend him, because in a sense, a lot of young and aspiring Nigerians who are looking to scale up the ladder in the finances and in their aspirational ways would normally look up to people like Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, and so on, and believe that someday they can be there. In your own country, looking at, Otedola, for example, bought about 30 billion naira worth of shares in Dangote Cement recently, and you saw the joke where Dangote was saying, "Welcome to take over the cement company," and they laughed. Before now, Otedola had also gone to buy into Transcorp Hilton,
which was an issue between him and Tony.
Yeah, so if you look at the way, this man has been buying, and I think it's a good thing. He's a businessman. Like I said, if not for the way our economy is structured, the federal government ought to be having a benchmark to say, like, in the next 10 years, we want to produce, let's say, 60 billionaires.
But before you continue,
Yes.
Before you
Who
continue,
will be aged 40 years and under?
yes, an economist has analyzed this and had said authoritatively that it's often very theoretical when we say the stock market is doing this because Dangote is this and First Bank is doing this, Tony Elumelu is this. But if all of these theoretical indices does not reflect on the real economy, it's a total waste of time. It's bubbles.
Yeah, well, so first of all, First Bank is one of the oldest remaining banks in Nigeria.
Yeah.
It's one of the banks that, to put it loosely, people call establishment banks. Because those banks can never go down.
First generation
Yeah,
banks.
first generation banks. Yes, I agree with that thinking. But like I said, so he has brought in money into First Bank, right?
Yeah.
Ultimately, but again, fresh investors, I mean, they come in, they bring directors and everything like that. We don't know exactly what direction he wants to go. It's wanted to say something, it's another thing to see what you do about what you say. So, in my view, we need to give him some time, observe how he goes about his, I mean, Oyedepo himself as someone who has invested, has lost money in the past.
Yeah.
Okay, so he's not a new person when it comes to business environment. Will not just be created. We need to try to steer First Bank in the direction of digital banking, AI adoption, and things like that. And if you did that, what implication will that have on jobs? For example, how will First Bank now communicate itself to Gen Zs, for example? All right. So all of these are things that the bank will need to look at. But like I said, this is a corporate giant in Nigeria, the dawn of the Nigerian banking industry, if you don't mind using that term. And so a lot is expected of him. He is someone who himself is very modern, very pliable. What I mean, very amenable to the dynamics of time. You know, so
innovations.
Yes, to innovation. So it really remains to be seen I believe that. I mean, we saw a lot of other banks, but he chose First Bank. So let's see what he does with. I mean, for people who are serial investors, they're into manufacturing, oil and gas, banking, and so on. These are the real movers and shakers of economies. They are the ones who create jobs. They're the ones who. No, but of course it's true. They finance campaigns. They do a lot of things. What we must do as a country,
Bottom up or top to the bottom.
both ways. the only thing we must do is to make sure that all of these things, businesses are operating by the rules. But for as long as they're operating by the rules, I can tell you that, like an American and anywhere else, entrepreneurs are the ones who move civilization forward.
Exactly. So let's move on to our last daily for today. It is coming from the Daily Trust newspaper, and the big story there says, amid insecurity, NEF or Haneze, CSO is angry over Tinubu's private trip to Paris, and he is on top of the situation that is coming from the presidency. And on the top strip of the same newspaper, we have CSOs to Tinubu, Niger, Mali, Burkina Faso exit from ECOWAS supposes security threats. What must be done to make the Naira rise again? And this is coming from Renaud Mokri, the self-exiled Nigerian critic that is. And on the bottom sleeve of the same newspaper, we have Naira drops to 1,400 Naira to the dollar at official market. I don't know if we should be excited about this, but that is what made one of the headline news on the Daily Trust. So, Mr. Siri, let's talk about CSOs and some organizations becoming angry over Tinubu's private trip to Paris. And if you may, I know you are not in the caucus of the presidency to know where he goes and what happens to where he goes, but if you might maybe give us some headshots of what you think took President to Paris.
Excuse me.
Yeah. Do you have an idea? Because everybody is asking, because no one is feeding us with the right information.
The fact that the presidency stopped short of telling us what he went to do is clear indication or signal that we can make deductions.
Okay, so I love that's the deduction. The deduction basically is what I'm asking
I
for.
personally will put pleasure hunting beyond the president.
Pleasure hunting.
I said I will put pleasure hunting beyond the president.
Okay.
I don't think he went there to hunt for pleasure.
Okay.
He didn't go there to hold any secret bilateral meeting. That's not what he went there to do.
Even if we saw a brother taking pictures with him on the same trip.
It's funny. I really like to think he's there on medical grounds.
Okay, medical tourism.
Yes, that's what I like to think.
Okay.
He's gone there to do. But again, it's not good for the optics. It's not good for his function. As somebody occupying the office of president. The president ought to be somebody who is held up to the highest levels of morality, highest levels of ethical behavior. But this is clearly beneath the standard, and it's not right. But now, Niger, ECOWAS, and Niger, Mali, and Burkina Faso out of ECOWAS, the president isn't there to lead from the front. He is ECOWAS president, and he is ECOWAS chairman and president of Nigeria. Where is the headquarters of ECOWAS? Is in Abuja.
No, yes, definitely.
It used to be in Lagos.
Yeah.
Now it's in Abuja. You want to think that the Nigerian president or the vice president cannot be sitting for him. The president ought to be the one who convokes a meeting of relevant stakeholders, who look at scenario planning, who provides that critical leadership. But alas, he's not there. And that's not good at all. How about Nigeria locally? Kidnappings are taking place, every day. Blood is being shed every day. The naira is falling like it was trying to drill for oil. He's not there to take leadership of what is going on in the country. So such absent, if a whole president can be that absent, first of all, from his seat, why should anybody query a school principal who says I'm taking a private trip to somewhere?
So can we say he has lost it? Has the president lost it?
Well, that's a hard one to say yes or no to. But I think in between, I think there's a losing. It's like saying he's losing it. He could quickly come back and make amends, but clearly, because to err is human. Right? So, but if this becomes a pattern, then it will be a loss. If this were to be a pattern, if after 6 months he travels again and says he's coming, to be president of a country is not an easy job. You have to be there, and especially Nigeria, where everything is at ebb of tide. You need the leader to be present. The sort of turnaround that Malaysia, Singapore, the Asian Tigers witnessed was because they had hands-on leaders who had a clear picture of the country they wanted to create, even South Korea, and began to work towards it there. And you cannot put yourself ahead of your country. It's not done. If you know you're not fit for the job, all right, you can take a walk and get the next man to step in and get the job done. But the idea of it's my turn to be president, I think is also part that mentality of entitlement. Say it's my turn, nothing can take it away from me. It isn't also helping matters. Nigeria has a very long way from home. I hope that one day we'll begin the journey, because as we are, we're not even considering or contemplating taking a first step in the right direction.
But do you think this generation is worthy enough to give us the kind of president you have just talked about with respect to the Asian Tigers? Do you think this generation has got what it takes to bring out somebody and say, this person is that worthy person, good enough to lead Nigeria to the promised land?
You mean this current generation of politicians?
The current generation of politicians.
I read somewhere, I read from, was it Rudolph Okonkwo many years ago? There was an article I read like 2 years ago or so, but he had written it many years ago. I think it was at the start of the Passenger presidency. He did say that, and this is the truth. He said that none of those people that were part of the class of 1999 can save Nigeria. He said it. He said none. And I mean, for some of us who are relatively younger, we have to read opinion and yes. So we have a good. He said that none of those people that were part of 1999 can. And it's like a prophecy that has come true. It's true. A generation ago, Professor Shoyinka said that his generation was a wasted generation. Do you remember that statement? Many years ago, Professor Shoyinka said this generation is a wasted generation, and I think that largely, it has panned out to be true. We have not come close to the. You see, there's one thing about the Nigeria of our dreams, and another thing about the true potential Nigeria itself has. Nigeria was the only country that gained independence without shooting, without firing a gun. It was all about gentlemanly discussions and
negotiations and conversations.
And it worked out so well. Our leaders, Awolowo, Azikiwe, and co, were people that even foreign commentators were saying these guys could be president of America and Great Britain. They were sound, they were learned, they were astute, they were men of courtesy and manners, they were thinkers.
Articulate and all.
But you go and check where we dropped the ball. Ever since the first and second coups took place, it's as if this country just fell into, it's like some people say, I wouldn't say curse, it's like the child of the firstborn son, who is supposed to be the head of the family eventually, but does not, but is unwell in his mind and is unable to know and does not even and is not self-aware. So that's where we are. Leaders become leaders in Nigeria and become looters. They steal billions and billions and billions and billions and keep on stealing. Something is wrong with the mind of leadership in this country. Maybe 2 generations from them, we will have a leader who is able to understand the potential of this country and is able to put his feet down and is able to do the right thing. But I think he will be a leader in the mold of Lee Kuan Yew, who would say democracy is good, and yes, we will adopt it, but he may have to be there for a long time, and if only to be able to direct the country in the path it should be going. I pray that such a leader truly emerges. Exactly.
That was really an exciting discussion, if you ask me. And I'd love to say thank you to Mr. Cyril Abako for making it an awesome time. Thank you so very much, sir.
My pleasure.
For being part of our show today. So when we return, Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, has uncovered how a religious sect in Nigeria is laundering money for terrorists. That in a bit when we come, it's still Enterprise Morning. Please don't go anywhere.